The automatic doors of the Walmart on Fletcher Avenue slid open at exactly 6 a.m., and Ron Castellano was already standing at his post. At 73 years old, Ron had the kind of posture that made people do a double-take. Ramrod straight, shoulders back, eyes alert. The navy blue Walmart vest hung on his frame like it was tailored, though it was just a standard size large. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Good morning, folks, Ron said to the first customers of the day, a young couple pushing a cart. His voice carried the kind of warmth that made strangers smile back automatically. Welcome to Walmart. You need help finding anything today, you just holler. The couple nodded politely and moved past him into the store. Ron watched them go, then returned his gaze to the entrance. To anyone else, he looked like just another retired guy picking up extra money with an easy job. But Ron Castellano wasn't just anyone. The store manager, Patricia Nguyen, had hired Ron 8 months ago. She'd been impressed by his application, though she noticed he'd left large gaps in his work history. When she'd asked about it during the interview, Ron had simply said, "Military service, Mom. 22 years. Patricia hadn't pressed for details. She needed reliable greeters, and Ron seemed perfect. He was punctual, friendly, and had a commanding presence that somehow made the entrance feel safer. What she didn't know was that Ron had spent most of those 22 years in places that would give most people nightmares. Ron had joined the Marines at 19, shipped out to Vietnam at 20, and spent 3 tours in the jungle. He'd been part of reconnaissance missions, the kind where silence meant survival and one wrong step could end everything. When he finally came home in 1973, he'd brought back skills most people never needed. The ability to read micro-expressions, to spot inconsistencies in behavior, to remain calm when chaos erupted around him. For decades after the war, Ron had worked various security jobs. He'd been a night watchman at a pharmaceutical warehouse, a security consultant for retail chains, even a bodyguard for a brief period. But age catches up with everyone, and at 71, most security firms told him he was too old for the work. Greeting at Walmart was supposed to be his retirement gig. Low stress, easy hours. Just smile, check receipts occasionally, and help lost customers find the bathroom. But Ron Castellano had noticed something. It started about 3 months into the job. Ron had developed a mental catalogue of the store's regular customers. There was Mrs. Dolores Wright, who came every Tuesday for her groceries. There was Marcus, the college kid who worked nights and bought energy drinks at dawn. There was the Martinez family, who shopped together every Saturday morning. Then there were the others. Ron started noticing a pattern with certain shoppers. They'd come in, avoid eye contact, and move through the store with purpose, but no carts. They'd wear baggy clothes even on warm days. They'd linger in blind spots where the security cameras had poor angles. Ron recognized the behavior immediately. These weren't shoppers. They were operators. The first time he was certain, it was a Thursday morning. A man in his late 20s walked in wearing a hoodie and cargo pants. Ron greeted him cheerfully, and the man grunted without looking up. Ron watched him head straight for electronics, bypass the main displays, and move toward the high-value items in the back corner. Ron casually walked to the customer service desk, where Patricia was reviewing paperwork. "Patricia, do me a favor," Ron said quietly. "Keep an eye on the guy in the gray hoodie. Electronics section." Patricia looked up, surprised. "You think something's wrong? Call it a hunch." 10 minutes later, loss prevention caught the man trying to walk out with a laptop hidden under his hoodie. Patricia had been stunned. She'd pulled Ron aside later that day. "How did you know?" she asked. Ron had simply smiled. "You do this long enough, you learn to spot the tells." After that, Patricia started paying attention when Ron flagged someone. Over the next 2 months, Ron identified 6 more shoplifters. His success rate was remarkable. Loss prevention loved him. The store's shrinkage numbers improved dramatically, but Ron never made a big deal of it. He just kept greeting customers with his warm smile, helping elderly shoppers find their favorite cereal, and quietly watching What Ron hadn't anticipated was that word would spread. In the world of petty theft, shoplifters talk. They share information about which stores are easy targets, which have blind spots, which employees don't pay attention. And slowly the word got around. The Walmart on Fletcher Avenue had an old greeter who was somehow catching everyone. Most shoplifters simply started avoiding that location. But not everyone got the message. And some, unfortunately, had bigger plans than just walking out with unpaid merchandise. It was a Wednesday morning, unseasonably cold for Florida, when Ron noticed them for the first time. 3 young men, early 20s, walked in together. They split up immediately, which was the first red flag. Friends usually shop together. These 3 moved like a unit, executing a plan. Ron greeted them individually as they entered. "Morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Walmart?" Only one acknowledged him with a brief nod. The other 2 kept their heads down. Ron's instincts, honed over decades of watching for danger, started firing warning signals. This wasn't ordinary shoplifting behavior. These men moved with too much confidence, too much coordination. He watched them disperse into different sections, one toward sporting goods, one toward electronics, one toward the back where seasonal items were stacked. Ron didn't move from his post, but his mind was already calculating. 3 operators. Coordinated entry, splitting up to cover multiple high-value sections. This wasn't about stealing a few items. This was a planned hit. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to Patricia. 3 males, early 20s, possible organized retail crime. Keep LP alert. Patricia's response was immediate. On it, Ron slipped his phone back into his pocket and maintained his position at the door, greeting incoming customers with the same warmth as always. But his eyes never stopped scanning the store. The game had changed. And Ronald Castellano was about to remind everyone that some skills never fade, no matter how many years pass. Inside the security office, loss prevention officer Derek Hammond was already pulling up camera feeds. At 32, Derek had been working retail security for 7 years, and he'd learned to trust Ron's instincts completely. The old man had an almost supernatural ability to spot trouble. "I've got eyes on all 3, Derek said into his radio, speaking to his partner Jenny Flores, who was posing as a regular stalker on the floor. "Subject 1 is in sporting goods, looking at camping gear. Subject 2 is browsing tablets. Subject 3 just grabbed a cart near the automotive." Jenny's voice crackled back. "The one with the cart is interesting. Nobody grabs a cart in the back of the store." Derek zoomed in on the 3rd suspect. The young man was methodically placing items into the cart, but something was off about his selections. A bag of charcoal, a can of lighter fluid, duct tape, rope. "Jenny, get the manager." "Now," Derek said, his casual tone gone. "This isn't shoplifting." At the front entrance, Ron continued his greeting duties, but his peripheral vision never left the store interior. A woman with 2 small children came through the doors, and Ron's demeanor immediately shifted to extra warmth. "Good morning, ma'am. Those are some beautiful kids you've got there." The woman smiled tiredly. "Thank you. They're a handful this morning." "I bet they are," Ron said, then lowered his voice slightly. "Ma'am, do me a favor. Shop near the front of the store today. Pharmacy, groceries, that area. Avoid the back sections for a bit." The woman's smile faded slightly, confusion crossing her face. "Is something wrong?" "Just a precaution," Ron said, his tone leaving no room for argument but staying friendly. "For the kids." Something in Ron's eyes made the woman nod. She'd seen that look before, maybe in her own father, a veteran who'd passed away years ago. It was the look of someone who knew danger when he saw it. She steered her cart left toward the pharmacy. Ron pulled out his phone again and texted Patricia. "Start moving customers toward the front sections." Quietly, back in the security office, Derek was on the phone with the local police department. "Yes, we have 3 suspects engaged in suspicious behavior. No, they haven't committed a crime yet, but their activity pattern is concerning. We have a decorated veteran on staff who's flagging this as a potential incident." Patricia appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. "What's happening?" Derek pointed at the screens. "Watch subject 3. Tell me what you see." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Patricia studied the monitor. The young man with the cart had moved to the hardware section. He was now adding zip ties and a box cutter to his collection. "Oh my God," Patricia whispered. "Derek, those aren't shoplifting supplies." "No, they're not," Derek agreed grimly. "Those are restraint tools." The realization hit both of them simultaneously. This wasn't organized retail crime. This was reconnaissance for something far worse. "Where are the other two?" Patricia asked, her voice tight. Derek switched cameras. "Subject 1 is still in sporting goods. Subject 2 just moved toward the break room hallway." "The break room?" Patricia's face went pale. "That's where the manager's office is. That's where the safe—" She didn't finish the sentence. Derek was already on his radio. "Jenny, we have a possible robbery in progress. Subjects may be casing the office locations. Police en route. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." At the front entrance, Ron saw a fourth man enter the store. This one was older, maybe mid-30s, with a leather jacket and a confident stride. The man made brief eye contact with Ron, and in that split second, Ron saw something he recognized from a lifetime ago: the cold, calculating gaze of someone running an operation. This was the leader. Ron's mind flashed back to Vietnam, to the Viet Cong strategists who would walk through villages, calm and collected while planning ambushes. This man had that same energy. He wasn't here to steal electronics. He was here to orchestrate something bigger. The man in the leather jacket didn't split off like the others. He walked slowly through the main aisle, his eyes scanning not products but people. Store layout, camera positions, exit routes. Ron made a decision. He stepped away from his greeter post and began following the man at a distance, maintaining the appearance of helping customers. "Excuse me, sir," Ron called out cheerfully. "Can I help you find something today?" The man stopped and turned, his expression neutral. "Just browsing." "Well, if you need anything, you just let me know," Ron said, positioning himself in the man's line of sight. A subtle message. "I see you." The man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He nodded and continued walking, but Ron noticed the shift in his body language. The leader had realized someone was paying attention. Ron pulled out his phone and quickly typed a message to Derek. Fourth subject entered. Male 30s, leather jacket, brown hair. "This one's running the show. Stay sharp." Inside the security office, Derek's phone buzzed. He read Ron's message and immediately started scanning the cameras for the fourth subject. When he found him, his stomach dropped. "Patricia, look at this guy's movements," Derek said. "He's not shopping, he's surveying." Patricia watched the screen as the man in the leather jacket walked past the customer service desk, glanced at the security camera mounted in the corner, then continued toward the back offices. "He's mapping the store," Patricia said. "Derek, I think they're planning to rob us, or worse," Derek muttered. He checked his watch. The police had said 5 minutes. It had been 3. On the sales floor, Jenny Flores was stocking shelves near the electronics section when Subject 2 walked past her. She kept her head down, but her eyes tracked him. He moved to the end of the aisle and pulled out his phone, typing quickly. Jenny's radio was hidden under her vest. She whispered into it. Subject 2 just sent a text. "They're communicating." Almost simultaneously, all 4 suspects began moving. The 3 younger men started converging toward the back of the store, while the man in the leather jacket headed toward the main exit. Ron saw it happening. The coordination was military precise. They were about to execute their plan. "Derek," Ron said into his phone, abandoning all pretense of greeting duties. "They're moving." "You've got maybe 60 seconds. Police are 1 minute out," Derek replied. "Ron, stay at the entrance. Don't let the leader leave." Ron looked at the man in the leather jacket, who was now 20 feet from the exit. The man's hand was in his jacket pocket, and Ron's decades of experience told him exactly what was in there. "Derek, he's armed," Ron said quietly. "I'm going to stall him." "Ron, don't," Derek started, but Ron had already pocketed his phone. Ronald Castellano, 73-year-old Vietnam veteran, walked directly into the path of the exit and smiled his warmest greeter smile. "Sir, before you go, could you help me with something?" Ron said, his voice friendly but his body positioned to block the door. The man in the leather jacket stopped. His eyes narrowed. "I'm in a hurry. This'll just take a second," Ron said, maintaining eye contact. "See, I'm new to this whole greeter thing, and I'm supposed to ask customers about their shopping experience. You mind telling me how we did today?" The man's hand moved slightly inside his jacket pocket. "Move." Ron didn't move. His voice dropped lower, losing the friendly tone. "Son, I know exactly what you're planning. I know your boys are in the back right now, probably trying to get into the cash office. I know you're armed, and I know the police are about 30 seconds away." The man's face hardened. "You don't know anything, old man. I know you've got about 5 seconds to make the smartest decision of your life," Ron said calmly. "You can walk away right now, call off your guys, and nobody gets hurt. Or you can do something stupid, and I promise you, this won't end the way you think it will." Outside, the sound of sirens began to wail in the distance. The man in the leather jacket's eyes flickered toward the entrance, where the sirens were growing louder. His hand tightened inside his pocket, and Ron could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Fight or flight. Every criminal reached this crossroads eventually. "Your move," Ron said quietly, his stance unwavering. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The morning shoppers continued browsing nearby, completely unaware of the standoff happening at the entrance. An elderly woman pushed her cart past them, commenting on the sale price of oranges. Then the man's phone buzzed. He glanced down at it, his expression shifting from anger to frustration. Without taking his hand from his pocket, he turned and walked quickly toward the garden center exit on the opposite side of the store. Ron immediately radioed Derek. "Leaders heading to garden center exit." "He's running. Copy that." "Jenny's in position," Derek responded. In the back of the store, the 3 younger suspects had reached the hallway leading to the offices when Jenny Flores stepped out from behind a display of motor oil, her security badge now visible. "Gentlemen, I'm going to need you to stop right there," she said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. The 3 men froze. The one with the cart abandoned it, and all 3 bolted in different directions. One headed for the automotive bay doors, another toward the loading dock, and the third ran straight toward the main sales floor. "Suspects scattering," Jenny called into her radio. "I need backup at all exits." Outside in the parking lot, 3 patrol cars from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office pulled up to the entrance, lights flashing. Deputy Marcus Chen was the first out of his vehicle, followed by Deputies Sarah Kowalski and James Richardson. Ron met them at the door. 3 suspects inside running toward different exits. The leader in a leather jacket headed for the garden center. "When possibly armed," Deputy Chen nodded, impressed by the concise military-style briefing. "Sir, we need you to help evacuate customers near the exits." Ron was already moving. He walked to the PA system at the customer service desk and picked up the phone. His voice, calm and authoritative, echoed through the store. "Attention Walmart shoppers. We're experiencing a brief security situation. For your safety, please move to the center of the store near the pharmacy. This is not a drill. Please move calmly to the pharmacy area now." The tone of Ron's voice carried an urgency that made people listen. Shoppers began moving toward the front center of the store, some confused, others frightened, but compliant. Patricia was already directing people. "Right this way, folks. Everything's fine, just a precaution. Stay together, please." Deputy Kowalski moved quickly through the main aisle toward the garden center, while Deputy Richardson headed toward the loading dock. Deputy Chen stayed near the main entrance, coordinating on his radio. In the garden center, the man in the leather jacket pushed through the emergency exit, triggering the alarm. He sprinted across the parking lot toward a dark blue sedan parked in the far corner. Deputy Kowalski emerged 15 seconds behind him. "Stop! Sheriff's Department," she shouted. The man reached his car, fumbling with his keys. For a split second, he considered driving off, but Deputy Kowalski was already 20 feet away with her hand on her service weapon. He raised his hands slowly, the fight draining out of him. All right. I'm done. Inside the store, the suspect who'd run toward the automotive bay found himself face to face with Deputy Richardson, who'd circled around through the stockroom. The young man tried to reverse direction but ran straight into Derek Hammond, who'd been tracking him on the cameras and cut off his escape route. "On the ground, now!" Derek commanded. The suspect dropped to his knees, hands up. "Don't shoot, man! I didn't do anything." The third suspect, the one who'd grabbed the cart full of suspicious items, had made it to the main sales floor before realizing he was trapped. Customers had cleared out, deputies were at every exit, and Jenny Flores was blocking his path back to the rear of the store. He stood in the middle of the empty aisle, breathing hard, looking for options that didn't exist. Ron appeared at the end of the aisle. He walked slowly toward the young man, his hands visible and empty. "Son, it's over," Ron said gently. "You're surrounded." No one needs to get hurt today. The suspect was barely 21, Ron realized. Just a kid who'd made terrible choices. His eyes were wide with panic, darting around like a cornered animal. "I can't go to jail," the young man said, his voice cracking. "I can't." "I know you're scared," Ron said, taking another slow step forward. "I've been scared plenty of times in my life, but the brave thing isn't running. The brave thing is owning up to your mistakes." "You don't understand," the kid said. "My brother's in the hospital. We needed the money for his treatment." "I didn't know what else to do." Ron stopped walking. He'd heard variations of this story 1,000 times, and sometimes it was true, sometimes it wasn't, but the desperation in the kid's eyes was real. "That may be true," Ron said, "and if it is, a judge might show mercy. But if you make this worse right now, if you try to hurt someone or take a hostage, there's no coming back from that. Your brother needs you alive and free eventually, not dead or serving life in prison." The young man's shoulders sagged. Tears started running down his face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know," Ron said. "Now put your hands behind your head and get on your knees. Do it slowly." The suspect complied, and within seconds, Deputy Chen was there with handcuffs. Jenny Flores moved in to assist, and Ron stepped back, letting the professionals handle the arrest. Within 10 minutes, all 4 suspects were in custody. The store was secured, and customers were allowed to resume shopping or leave as they chose. Most chose to leave, the morning's excitement being more than they'd bargained for. Patricia found Ron back at his greeter post, watching the deputies process the scene. She looked exhausted and exhilarated at the same time. "Ron, what you did today?" She started, then paused, searching for words. "You potentially saved lives. You know that, right?" Ron shrugged. "Just doing my job, ma'am." "Your job is to greet customers and check receipts," Patricia said with a slight smile. "Not to stop armed robberies." "Well, the job description said other duties as assigned," Ron replied, his eyes twinkling. "Figured this counted." Deputy Chen approached them, notebook in hand. "Mr. Castellano, I'm going to need a full statement from you. But I want you to know what you did was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid," Ron chuckled. "I've been called worse. The guy in the leather jacket, his name's Tyler Brennan. He's got a record longer than my arm. Armed robbery, assault, weapons charges. He's been on our radar for months," Chen explained. "The other 3 are younger, probably recruits he brought in for this job. You're lucky he didn't shoot you when you blocked that exit." "I'm 73 years old, Deputy," Ron said. "At my age, you stop worrying so much about luck and start trusting your gut. My gut told me he wasn't going to shoot an old man in a Walmart at 8 in the morning." "Your gut was right," Chen said. "This time. But please, next time, just let us handle it. If there is a next time," Ron said. Which I'm hoping there won't be. But even as he said it, Ron knew better. Word would spread about what happened today. Some criminals would avoid the store. Others would see it as a challenge. And Ron Castellano would be standing at that entrance, greeting customers with a smile, watching for the tells that separated shoppers from threats, because some instincts never fade, no matter how many years pass. Deputy Chen finished taking Ron's statement and handed him a card. "If you ever want to consult for the department, give me a call. We could use someone with your observational skills." Ron pocketed the card politely, knowing he'd never call. He was done with that life. He was just a greeter now. Just an old man saying hello to customers and helping them find what they needed. Except he wasn't just a greeter. And everyone in that store now knew it. As the deputies left and the store slowly returned to normal, Ron resumed his position at the entrance. The automatic doors opened, and a middle-aged woman walked in, looking nervous. "Is it safe to shop here?" she asked tentatively. Ron gave her his warmest smile. "Ma'am, I can promise you, there's no safer Walmart in the entire state of Florida. Welcome, and let me know if you need any help finding anything today." The woman relaxed and smiled back, pushing her cart inside. Ron watched her go, then returned his gaze to the parking lot. Back to his post, back to watching. The local news picked up the story that evening. Ron was eating dinner in his small apartment, a one-bedroom place he'd rented after his wife passed away 3 years earlier, when his phone started buzzing with calls from numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored them all and turned on the television. Channel 8 News was running the story as their lead segment. A potential armed robbery was thwarted this morning at a Tampa Walmart, thanks to the quick thinking of an unlikely hero, the anchor announced. 73-year-old store greeter Ronald Castellano, a decorated Vietnam War veteran, identified suspicious activity and alerted authorities before 4 suspects could execute what police believe was a planned armed robbery. The screen cut to footage of the Walmart parking lot, police cars still visible in the background. Then it switched to an interview with Deputy Chen. "Mr. Castellano's actions today were exemplary," Chen said on camera. "His military training and situational awareness prevented what could have been a dangerous situation. He's a credit to his community." Ron turned off the television and returned to his microwaved meatloaf. He didn't feel like a hero. He'd just done what needed doing, same as always. His phone rang again. This time it was Patricia. "Ron, I know you probably want to be left alone," she said when he answered. "But the district manager wants to meet with you tomorrow." "Corporate's heard about what happened," Ron sighed. "Am I in trouble?" "In trouble?" Patricia laughed. "Ron, you're about to become the face of Walmart security. They want to feature you in training videos, maybe even some commercials. You're a PR goldmine. I'm a greeter, Patricia. I greet people. That's all I signed up for." "I know," she said, her tone softening. "But you're more than that now. Whether you want to be or not, just take the meeting, okay? Hear what they have to say," Ron agreed, though he wasn't happy about it. After hanging up, he sat in his worn recliner and stared at the wall covered in old photographs. Most were from his Marine days. Young men in uniform, some smiling, some serious. Too many of them hadn't made it home. One photo showed Ron at 25, standing with his squad in front of a Huey helicopter. He barely recognized the young man staring back at him. That version of Ron had believed in clear missions, defined enemies, and victories you could measure. 50 years later, Ron knew life was more complicated than that. Today's victory would be tomorrow's news. The suspects would be processed, probably plead out, and be back on the streets in a few years. And Ron would still be standing at that entrance, watching for the next threat. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from a number he didn't recognize. "Thank you for what you did today. That's my store, my community. You made us all safer." Customer Ron stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Just doing my job. Stay safe." More messages came throughout the evening. Some from reporters requesting interviews. One from a military veterans organization, asking if he'd speak at their next meeting. Another from Derek Hammond, checking in to make sure he was okay. Ron answered Derek's, "I'm fine. See you tomorrow morning." He didn't respond to the others. The next morning, Ron arrived at the store at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes earlier than usual. He wanted to settle in before the inevitable circus began. But when he walked through the employee entrance, he found the break room filled with co-workers holding a banner that read, "Thank you, Ron." Patricia stood at the front with a small cake. "Surprise," she said, though her smile was tentative, like she wasn't sure how Ron would react. Ron stopped in the doorway, genuinely taken aback. There were maybe 20 employees present, including Derek, Jenny, and several cashiers and stockers he'd worked with over the past 8 months. Speech, someone called out. Ron held up his hands. I appreciate this, I really do. But I didn't do anything special. You stopped 4 armed men from robbing us, interrupted Marcus, one of the night stock crew who Ron had helped train. That's not nothing, man. You kept customers safe, added Denise, a cashier who'd been with the store for 15 years. You kept us safe, Ron felt his throat tighten. He wasn't used to this kind of attention, didn't want it. But looking at the faces around him, he realized this wasn't about him. It was about them feeling safer, feeling like someone had their backs. All right, Ron said finally. Thank you all. But let's make a deal. We don't make a big production out of this. We just get back to work and keep this store running the way it should. Deal? Everyone nodded and the gathering broke up as shifts started. Patricia pulled Ron aside as people filed out. The district manager will be here at 10, she said. His name is Gregory Holbrook. He's bringing someone from corporate communications. Of course he is, Ron muttered. At exactly 10 o'clock, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. 2 men in suits emerged, and Patricia met them at the entrance. Ron watched from his greeter post, noting the expensive haircuts and rehearsed smiles. Corporate types. Gregory Holbrook was in his mid-40s, tall and broad-shouldered, with silver hair that probably cost more to maintain than Ron's monthly rent. The man with him was younger, early 30s, carrying a tablet and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mr. Castellano, Holbrook said, extending his hand with practiced enthusiasm. Gregory Holbrook, district manager. This is Kevin Park from our communications department. Can we have a few minutes of your time? Ron shook his hand, noting the firm grip meant to convey authority. Sure, Patricia's office? They moved to the small office behind customer service. Kevin Park immediately pulled out his tablet and started tapping notes. Holbrook sat across from Ron, his smile never wavering. Ron, what you did yesterday was remarkable, Holbrook began. You embodied everything Walmart stands for, protecting our customers, our employees, and our community. Corporate wants to recognize that. I appreciate the sentiment, Ron said carefully. But I was just doing my job. And you did it spectacularly, Holbrook continued. Which is why we'd like to expand your role. We're creating a new position, Regional Security Consultant. You'd travel to different stores, assess their security protocols, train greeters and loss prevention staff on threat recognition. The pay is significantly better than your current position, plus travel expenses and benefits. Ron blinked. He hadn't expected this. You want me to train other people to do what I did? Exactly, Kevin Park chimed in, looking up from his tablet. We're also hoping you'd participate in some promotional materials. Nothing major, just a few photos, maybe a short video testimonial about your experience working here. Ron leaned back in his chair, processing the offer. More money would be nice. He could finally fix the leak in his bathroom, maybe get a newer car. But traveling store to store, being paraded around as some kind of corporate mascot. Can I think about it? Ron asked. Holbrook's smile flickered slightly. Of course, but we'd need an answer by the end of the week. This is a time-sensitive opportunity. I understand, Ron said. I'll let you know. After they left, Patricia poked her head into the office. Well, what did they offer? Ron told her about the regional security consultant position. Patricia's eyes widened. Ron, that's incredible. You'd be crazy not to take it, maybe, Ron said. But I like it here. I like greeting the regulars, helping people find what they need. I don't know if I want to give that up. Patricia sat down across from him. Can I be honest with you? Ron nodded. You're 73 years old. This job, standing on your feet all day, dealing with cranky customers and cold drafts from those automatic doors, it's not easy work. This new position would be less physically demanding and pay way better. You've earned this, Ron. I've earned the right to choose what I want to do with my time, Ron countered gently. And I'm not sure this is it, Patricia smiled sadly. You're a stubborn old man, you know that? I've been called worse, Ron said with a slight grin. He returned to his post at the entrance, and the day proceeded normally. Customers came and went, most not knowing about yesterday's incident. The ones who did recognized him from the news gave him thumbs up or brief thank yous, which Ron accepted with polite nods. Around 2 in the afternoon, a black sedan pulled into the fire lane directly in front of the entrance. A man in his 50s got out, wearing a leather jacket similar to the one Tyler Brennan had worn the day before. Ron's alert system immediately activated. The man walked straight toward the entrance, making direct eye contact with Ron. "You Ronald Castellano?" the man asked, his voice gravelly. "I am," Ron replied, his posture straightening. "Can I help you?" The man stopped a few feet away. "My name's Vincent Brennan. Tyler's my nephew." Ron's expression didn't change, but his mind was already calculating distances, exit routes, and whether this man was armed. "I'm sorry your nephew made bad choices," Ron said carefully. Vincent Brennan studied Ron for a long moment. "He told me you could have let the cops shoot him when he ran. Said you talked him down instead." "He made the right call by surrendering," Ron said. "Saved everyone a lot of trouble." "Yeah, well," Vincent shifted his weight. "Kid's an idiot, always has been, but he's family. And I wanted to come tell you face to face. No hard feelings. You were protecting your store. I respect that." Ron hadn't expected this. "I appreciate you saying that." Vincent nodded once, then turned to leave. He paused at his car door and looked back. "For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Tyler needs to face consequences. Maybe it'll straighten him out." He got in his car and drove away. Ron watched the sedan disappear into traffic, then exhaled slowly. Patricia had been watching from the customer service desk. "Was that who I think it was?" she asked, hurrying over. "Tyler Brennan's uncle," Ron confirmed. "Come to say no hard feelings." Patricia looked worried. "Should we call the police?" "No need," Ron said. "He wasn't threatening anyone. Just wanted to talk." But as Ron returned to his post, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The incident yesterday hadn't ended when the suspects were arrested. It had rippled outward, touching more lives than he'd realized, and Ron was starting to understand that being a hero, even an unwilling one, came with complications he hadn't anticipated. 3 days after Vincent Brennan's visit, Ron was still thinking about the corporate offer. He'd been turning it over in his mind during every shift, weighing the practical benefits against his gut feeling that something about it didn't sit right. Thursday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Ron was greeting the early morning crowd when he noticed a young woman with a camera crew setting up in the parking lot. She was attractive, mid-30s, with professionally styled blonde hair and the kind of confidence that came from years in front of cameras. Patricia hurried over to Ron. "That's Amanda Torres from the local ABC affiliate. Apparently, the story went regional, and now national news is picking it up." "She wants an interview," Ron groaned. "I don't want to do an interview." "I know, but the corporation already approved it. It said it's good publicity for the company." Patricia looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, Ron. It's only going to be about 10 minutes. The interview happened during Ron's break." Amanda Torres positioned him near the entrance, the Walmart logo visible in the background. A small crowd of curious shoppers gathered to watch. "Mr. Castellano, you've become something of a local hero," Amanda began, her microphone pointed at Ron. "Tell us, what was going through your mind when you confronted those armed suspects?" Ron shifted uncomfortably. "I wasn't really thinking about being a hero, ma'am. I was thinking about keeping people safe. That's the job." "But you're a greeter," Amanda pressed. "Stopping armed robberies isn't in your job description. Neither is letting people get hurt when I can prevent it," Ron replied simply. Amanda smiled, clearly pleased with the answer. "You're a Vietnam veteran, correct? Did your military training play a role in how you handled the situation?" Ron paused, choosing his words carefully. "The military teaches you to stay calm under pressure, to assess situations quickly, and to protect the people around you. Those lessons don't go away just because you get older." What would you say to other veterans who might be struggling to find their purpose after leaving service? This question hit deeper than the others. Ron thought about the decades after Vietnam, the jobs that never quite felt right, the nights when memories kept sleep away. The sense of being unmoored from the mission-driven life he'd once known. "I'd say purpose doesn't always look like what you expect," Ron said slowly. "For years, I thought I needed to be in security or law enforcement to matter. But standing at that entrance, greeting people, helping them start their day right, that matters too. And when the moment came to use my training, it was there. You don't stop being who you are just because you're not in uniform anymore." Amanda's professional demeanor softened slightly. "That's beautiful. Thank you for your service, Mr. Castellano, and thank you for your continued service to this community." The interview wrapped up, and the news crew packed their equipment. Ron returned to his post, hoping that would be the end of it. But as the day progressed, more people recognized him. Some wanted selfies, others just wanted to shake his hand and say thank you. By lunchtime, Ron was exhausted from the attention. He retreated to the break room and found Derek Hammond already there, eating a sandwich and watching the interview on his phone. "You looked good on camera," Derek said with a grin. "Very humble hero vibes." Ron grabbed his lunch from the refrigerator. "I'm not a hero, Derek. I'm just an old man who got lucky." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Derek countered. "You read those guys perfectly. Your instincts saved lives." He paused, then added, "Have you thought about the corporate offer?" "That's all I've been thinking about," Ron admitted, sitting down heavily. "The money would be nice. The work would probably be interesting, but I'd be leaving this." Ron gestured around the break room, meaning more than just the physical space. "The regulars who come in every week, Mrs. Wright and her Tuesday shopping trips. Marcus buying his energy drinks before his shift. The mom with the 2 kids who I helped find the toy section last month, and now the kids wave at me every time they come in. That matters to me." Derek nodded thoughtfully. "You know what's funny? Most people can't wait to move up, get promoted, escape the front lines. But you actually care about being right here in this spot. Is that stupid?" Ron asked. "No," Derek said firmly. "It's actually kind of amazing. But Ron, you should also think about your future. That knee of yours I've seen you favoring. The way you wince when you stand up after sitting too long. This job is hard on your body. The consulting position would give you the same purpose without the physical toll." Ron knew Derek was right. His body wasn't what it used to be. The standing shifts left his joints aching, and some mornings it took him 20 minutes just to work out the stiffness enough to move normally. But the thought of traveling from store to store, being paraded around as some kind of corporate symbol, never putting down roots anywhere, it felt wrong. "I'll figure it out," Ron said, changing the subject. "How's your family?" They talked about Derek's daughter's upcoming soccer tournament until their breaks ended, then returned to their respective posts. That afternoon, Ron noticed a teenager lingering near the electronics section. He was maybe 17, wearing a hoodie despite the Florida heat, and his body language screamed nervous energy. Ron had seen this pattern before. The furtive glances, the hands in pockets, the purposeless wandering. But something about this kid felt different. He wasn't moving with the confidence of a habitual thief. He looked scared. Ron approached him casually. "Hey there, son. Can I help you find something?" The teenager jumped, startled. "No, I'm just looking." "Looking for anything specific?" Ron kept his tone friendly, non-threatening. The kid's eyes darted around. "Just looking." Ron studied him for a moment, then made a decision. "Walk with me for a second." The teenager looked like he wanted to run, but something in Ron's tone made him comply. They walked toward the front of the store, away from the electronics section. "What's your name?" Ron asked. "Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm trying to decide whether to call security or give you a chance to walk out of here with your dignity intact." The teenager stopped walking. "I wasn't going to steal anything." "Maybe not," Ron said. "But you were thinking about it. I've been doing this long enough to know the difference between browsing and casing." The kid's shoulders slumped. "My mom's birthday's tomorrow. I don't have any money for a present. I just wanted to get her something nice, you know. She works 2 jobs and she never buys anything for herself, and He trailed off, looking miserable. Ron sighed. He'd heard every excuse in the book, but something about this kid's story rang true. Maybe it was the genuine pain in his eyes, or maybe Ron was just getting soft in his old age. "What's your name?" Ron asked again, gentler this time. Chris. All right, Chris, here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of this store right now without taking anything. Then you're going to go home and think about whether your mom would be proud of you stealing for her birthday. You think she'd want a present bought with theft? Chris shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. No, she'd be so disappointed in me. Exactly, Ron said. So here's what you do instead. You find a way to earn some money. Mow lawns, wash cars, do odd jobs for neighbors. There's always honest work if you look for it. And if you can't earn enough by tomorrow, you make your mom do something. Write her a letter telling her what she means to you. Cost is $0, and I guarantee it'll mean more to her than anything you could buy in this store. Chris nodded, wiping his eyes. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I know you are, Ron said. Now get out of here. And Chris, I see you in this store again. You better be shopping with money you earned. Understand? Yes, sir. Thank you. Ron watched the teenager leave, then returned to his post. Derek had been watching on the cameras and walked over. You just let a potential shoplifter walk. Derek asked, though his tone wasn't accusatory. Kid wasn't a real threat, Ron said. Just desperate and stupid. Sometimes people need a second chance more than they need an arrest record. Derek smiled. You know, for someone who keeps insisting he's just a greeter, you sure do a lot of counseling. It's all part of the job, Ron replied. That evening, after his shift ended, Ron drove to a place he hadn't visited in months, the Veterans Cemetery, where his wife Linda was buried. She'd been a Marine too, serving as a nurse during the same years Ron was in Vietnam. They'd met after the war at a veterans support group, two damaged souls trying to find their way back to normal life. Ron sat on the bench near her grave, watching the sun set over the rows of white headstones. I don't know what to do, Lynn, he said quietly. Corporate wants to promote me, move me around, make me some kind of poster boy. Good money, less wear on these old bones. Practical choice. He paused, as if waiting for a response that would never come. But you remember how it was after we came back? All those years bouncing from job to job, never feeling like we fit anywhere? I finally found a place where I fit, where I wake up and don't dread going to work, where people know my name and I know theirs. A breeze rustled through the trees. Ron smiled sadly. You tell me I'm being stubborn. You'd say the smart choice is to take the promotion, save my knees, build up my retirement account. You always were the practical one. He stood up slowly, his joints protesting. But you also taught me that life isn't just about making smart choices. Sometimes it's about making choices that let you sleep at night. And I think I know which choice does that. The next morning, Ron arrived at the store early and asked Patricia to set up a meeting with Gregory Holbrook. The district manager arrived within 2 hours, looking pleased and expectant. Mr. Castellano, Holbrook greeted him warmly. I'm hoping you have good news for me. I appreciate the offer, Ron said directly. But I'm going to have to decline. I'm happy where I am, Holbrook's smile faltered. Ron, I don't think you understand the opportunity here. The salary alone, I understand perfectly, Ron interrupted gently. And I'm grateful. But I'm 73 years old. I've spent enough of my life being who other people needed me to be. Right now I need to be right here, doing exactly this. Holbrook looked genuinely confused. You want to stay a greeter? Making minimum wage, standing on your feet all day? Yes, Ron said simply. I do, but why? Ron thought about how to explain it. Because when Mrs. Wright comes in every Tuesday, she tells me about her grandkids, and I tell her about the sale on the canned peaches she likes. Because when Marcus comes in tired from his night shift, I make him laugh with a bad joke. Because yesterday, a kid was about to make the worst mistake of his life, and I was there to stop him. That matters to me more than a bigger paycheck. Holbrook was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. I don't agree with your decision, but I respect it. The offer stands if you change your mind. Thank you, Ron said. After Holbrook left, Patricia cornered Ron near the customer service desk. Are you insane? She asked, though she was smiling. Do you know how much money you just turned down? I have a pretty good idea, Ron replied. But money's not everything, Patricia. You know what keeps me going? It's here. It's making a difference, even in small ways. Some people search their whole lives for that. I finally found it. Why would I give it up? Patricia shook her head, but her eyes were misty. You're either the wisest man I know or the most stubborn. Can't I be both? She laughed and gave him a quick hug. Get back to your post, you old fool. Ron returned to the entrance, positioning himself in his usual spot. The automatic doors opened and closed, bringing in the morning customers. He greeted each one with genuine warmth. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Walmart. An elderly couple smiled at him. A young mother with a toddler waved. A businessman nodded distractedly, already on his phone. And there, walking through the parking lot, was Christopher, the teenager from yesterday. He was carrying a small gift bag and walking with purpose toward the store. When he saw Ron, he detoured over. Mr. Castellano, Chris said a bit nervously, I wanted to thank you for yesterday. I spent all evening doing yard work for my neighbors. Made $50. He held up the gift bag. Got my mom a nice scarf and wrote her a letter like you said. Ron felt warmth spread through his chest. That's good, son, real good. She's going to love it. I know it's not much, but it's honest, Chris said. And that matters, right? That matters more than anything, Ron confirmed. Chris nodded and headed into the store to presumably buy wrapping paper or a card. Ron watched him go, feeling a sense of satisfaction that no corporate title could provide. Derek appeared beside him, having watched the exchange on the cameras. You know, Ron, most people wouldn't have given that kid a second chance. They'd have had me arrest him, prosecute him, saddle him with a record that would follow him forever. Most people aren't 73-year-old Marines who've made plenty of mistakes themselves, Ron replied. Everybody deserves a chance to be better than their worst moment. Is that military wisdom? Ron chuckled. Nah, that's just living wisdom. Took me about 50 years to learn it. The day continued, normal and routine. Ron greeted customers, helped a lost child find her mother, directed an elderly man to the pharmacy, and quietly flagged a legitimate shoplifter for Derek to handle. Nothing extraordinary, just the daily rhythm of life at the entrance of a Walmart in Tampa, Florida. As his shift ended and Ron prepared to leave, Patricia caught him one more time. The TV interview aired this morning, she said. It's going viral. You're getting national attention, Ron grimaced. Great. No, really, look at this. She pulled out her phone and showed him the news website. The comment section was filled with messages from people, veterans, retail workers, ordinary citizens, all talking about Ron's words on purpose and service. One comment read, "This man gets it. Service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It's how you treat people every single day." Another said, "I'm a veteran struggling with civilian life. This gave me hope that I can still matter." Ron read through several comments, feeling uncomfortable with the praise, but understanding the impact his words had made. "Maybe you're making a difference in more ways than you realized," Patricia said softly. Ron handed back the phone. "Maybe, but I'm not doing it for attention or recognition. I'm doing it because it's right, and that's all that matters." He clocked out, changed out of his vest, and walked through the parking lot to his old sedan. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Another day done. Another shift of standing, greeting, watching, and occasionally making a small difference in someone's life. As Ron drove home, he thought about the choices that had led him here, the war that had shaped him, the years of searching for purpose, the loss of Linda, the slow realization that meaning wasn't found in big moments or grand gestures, but in the accumulated small acts of showing up, paying attention, and caring about the people around you. He'd turned down a promotion that would have made his life easier and more financially comfortable. Some people would call that foolish. But Ron knew better. He'd found something money couldn't buy, a place where he belonged, work that mattered, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that when he lay down each night, he'd made his small corner of the world a little bit better. At 73 years old, Ronald Castellano had finally figured out what his younger self had been searching for all along. Not glory or recognition or even gratitude, just the simple, profound purpose of standing at that entrance every morning, looking each person in the eye, and saying with genuine warmth, "Good morning. Welcome to Walmart. Let me know if you need anything today, because everyone deserves to be seen." Everyone deserves to be welcomed. And sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons, but with attention, compassion, and the willingness to stand your post, whatever that post may be, with dignity and purpose. Ron had found his post, and he wasn't leaving it for anything. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.